You don't have the strength to pull the trigger, let alone aim? Laughter echoed across the M2 training range. A small woman stepped up to the shooting platform. Eliza said nothing, just lowered her head to check the rifle. 1 second later, the shot rang out. The bullet didn't just hit center, it split the previous bullet already embedded in target number 7. An elderly general standing in the distance whispered, "Who trained her?" Eliza Grant, 26 years old, was the only female recruit in the sniper training course at Edgefield Base. She wasn't tall, small build, often mistaken for technical support staff. Every morning she woke at 4 a.m., practicing silently in the backyard. Nobody paid attention. She had been a national archery athlete, ranked top 1 in standing shot competitions, but retired due to hand injury. When she first joined the team, everyone called her female spotter, someone only allowed to hold binoculars. During the first team shooting trial, the sergeant pointed, "You're at the bottom of the list, reserve position." Eliza quietly nodded, didn't object. A teammate blurted out, "Let her try holding a Dragunov and see if it knocks her over." Laughter spread across the training ground. Eliza just picked up the rifle, checked the scope, wiped it gently and set it back down. She wasn't allowed to shoot, only allowed to watch others shoot. The mockery continued daily. Comments about her size, her gender, her supposed inability to handle real military weapons. Bet she can't even lift the rifle properly. Should stick to paperwork, not shooting. Probably flinches every time someone else fires. Eliza absorbed every insult without response. She focused on observation, learning from others' techniques. What her colleagues didn't know was that Eliza had been studying marksmanship since childhood. Her father's military journals were filled with advanced techniques. She understood ballistics theory better than most of the men who mocked her, could calculate wind drift and bullet drop in her head, but knowledge meant nothing without opportunity to demonstrate it. While they joked about her supposed weakness, she was memorizing every detail of their training routine. She studied their mistakes, analyzed their successful shots, absorbed techniques from the instructors they ignored. At night, she practiced breathing exercises and mental visualization. She couldn't access the rifles after hours, but she could perfect her form. Eliza knew that someday she would get a chance to show what she was capable of, and when that moment came, she would be ready, more ready than anyone expected. CTA Comment Act 1. Ever seen someone with ability pushed aside just because of appearance? Type SOUNFAIR. She wasn't included in any official list for periodic evaluations. Despite this, every night people saw her practicing alone, setting up wooden target models and painting red marks. An old lieutenant walking by once stopped, noticing the hand-drawn wind adjustment chart Eliza had created. He muttered, "Who taught her to adjust sight alignment so precisely?" Nobody answered. On the final evaluation day, a student was suddenly injured. They needed someone. Eliza was called as a replacement, like filling a gap. A teammate whispered when handing her the rifle, "Just don't send the target flying off the board." Eliza checked the rifle, silently stepped onto the platform. 3 bullets per person. She was the last one. First shot, straight through center. Second shot, grazed the edge of the previous bullet, creating a slight deviation. Third shot, split the first bullet in half. A split shot? It's extremely rare in training. The training ground fell completely silent. Instructors looked at each other in disbelief. A split shot required not just accuracy, but perfect timing, precise bullet placement, and complete understanding of ballistics. It was the kind of shot that legends were made of, something most snipers never achieved in their entire careers. And Eliza had just done it on her 3rd attempt, under pressure, in front of people who had been mocking her for weeks. The silence stretched on. Nobody knew what to say. How do you react when someone you've been dismissing as incompetent demonstrates skills that exceed your own instructors? The sergeant who had placed her at the bottom of the list stood frozen, staring at the target through binoculars. "Confirmed," he finally said, his voice barely audible. "Split shot, direct center." Other students began gathering around, wanting to see the target for themselves. The bullet had indeed split the previous round perfectly down the middle, embedding both halves in the target while driving through to create a perfect bullseye. It was textbook precision, the kind of shot that required years of training and natural talent. How did she? Someone started to ask, then stopped, because they all knew the answer. While they had been joking and underestimating her, Eliza had been studying, practicing, preparing. She had earned this moment through dedication they couldn't see and skills they had refused to acknowledge. The instructor approached Eliza, clearly struggling with what to say. "Miss Grant, where did you learn that technique?" Eliza replied simply, "From my father's journals and practice." "Your father?" "He was a sniper. Operation Nighthawk, 2004. The instructor's face went pale. Operation Nighthawk was legendary in military circles. The snipers from that mission were considered among the finest in recent history, but before anyone could respond, they heard vehicles approaching from the main road. An unscheduled inspection was about to change everything. CTA Common Act 2. If you've ever underestimated someone because they stay quiet, type, "I was wrong." In the distance, a black SUV stopped. An officer in civilian clothes stepped out. General Griffith, commander of military sniper operations. He had arrived unannounced, monitoring the evaluation from the beginning through an unmanned aerial vehicle. When he saw the split shot, he stood motionless. Walking to the center of the field, all officers and students came to attention. He looked at Eliza, stepped forward and asked, "Who taught you the bullet-splitting technique?" Eliza answered, "I learned from my father's journal. He was a sniper in Operation Nighthawk 04. Griffith froze. "Lewis Grant?" Eliza nodded. General Griffith turned to the supervising officer. "Why wasn't she on the official roster?" The officer stammered. "She wasn't considered physically qualified." The general stepped toward Eliza, raised his hand in salute. "You just accomplished something I haven't seen anyone do in 15 years. Welcome, #1 marksman." A quiet round of applause, not loud cheering, but everyone bowed their heads respectfully. The transformation was immediate and profound. General Griffith's presence changed everything. He addressed the assembled group. "I've been monitoring military sniper training for 2 decades. What I just witnessed represents the highest level of marksmanship skill." He gestured toward the split target. "A perfect split shot requires not just accuracy, but complete mastery of ballistics, wind reading, and pressure management." The general's voice carried absolute authority. "Miss Grant's father, Staff Sergeant Lewis Grant, was one of the finest snipers I ever served with. He saved my unit during Operation Nighthawk." He paused, looking directly at the officer who had excluded Eliza. "Louis Grant could make impossible shots under combat conditions. Apparently, he passed those skills to his daughter." The students who had been mocking Eliza now looked devastated with shame. General Griffith continued, "Physical strength is not the most important quality in a sniper. Mental discipline is. Patience is. Precision is." He turned back to Eliza. "Your father would be proud. You've demonstrated abilities that surpass most trained military snipers." Eliza remained humble. "I just applied what he taught me through his writing. What he taught you was more than technique. He taught you dedication, focus, the willingness to prepare when others doubt you." The general addressed the supervising staff. "This young woman will be immediately enrolled in advanced sniper training, full scholarship, full support." He pulled out official documentation. "I'm also recommending her for the Military Excellence in Marksmanship Award." But Eliza spoke up. "Sir, I appreciate the recognition, but I don't need awards. I just want the opportunity to serve." General Griffith smiled for the first time. "Exactly what your father would have said." He turned to address everyone present. "Today you learned an important lesson about assumptions, about judging people based on appearance rather than capability." His voice grew stern. "Miss Grant was excluded from official training because of prejudice. While you were making jokes, she was becoming one of the finest marksmen I've ever seen." One of the students who had been most dismissive stepped forward. "Sir, we owe her a sincere apology. We were completely wrong." Eliza nodded graciously. "Apology accepted, but learn from this. Don't underestimate quiet people." General Griffith made one final announcement. "Effective immediately, Miss Grant will be assigned as assistant instructor for this program. She'll help train the next generation of snipers." As he prepared to leave, he handed Eliza a small package. "Your father's service journal. I've kept it for 19 years, waiting for the right person to return it to." Eliza accepted it with trembling hands, finally understanding the full weight of her father's legacy. CTA Comment Act 3. If you owe someone proper recognition at the right time, type, "I owe someone." Eliza didn't register for the National Sniper Team. Despite being invited, she requested transfer to assistant instructor, specializing in supporting new female recruits entering the field. Every morning, she still came to the old training ground, adjusting rifles for young trainees, teaching proper breathing techniques. A group of students carved words into the wooden target board. Not everyone who hits the bullseye becomes legend, but some people, with just one shot, are enough for history to remember. General Griffith sent back her father's old journal, which he had kept for 19 years. In it, the last line read, "If you're reading this, then you've learned how powerful silence can be." Eliza didn't cry, just closed the journal, stood up, and walked out to the range. Under her guidance, the training program transformed. Female recruits were evaluated based on skill, not stereotypes. Her teaching method was unlike anything the program had seen before. No shouting, no intimidation, just patient guidance and technical excellence. "Shooting isn't about strength," she would tell her students. "It's about becoming completely still inside while everything around you moves." Within months, the graduation rate for female snipers increased by 300%. Eliza's students consistently outperformed traditional training groups. Word spread through military communities. Other bases requested her consultation on training programs. But Eliza preferred hands-on teaching to administrative roles. "I'm not here to prove women can be snipers," she would say. "I'm here to train the best snipers, regardless of gender." Her father's journal became required reading for advanced students. His techniques, refined by Eliza's innovations, became standard training protocols. Years later, when asked about the split shot that changed everything, Eliza would say simply, "That wasn't about proving anything to anyone. It was about honoring my father's teaching and showing what's possible with proper preparation." Her legacy became not just the shot that silenced the doubters, but the culture change that followed. Performance became the only measure that mattered. Skill transcended stereotypes. The wooden sign in the training facility read, "Grant Training Center, where excellence speaks louder than words." Eliza never sought fame or recognition. She just continued teaching, one student at a time, proving that the most powerful statements are made through action, not words. CTA Comment. Act 4. Type, "I'll live better." If you believe the quietest people are often the strongest. Eliza didn't need to shout about being skilled. She didn't demand trust. She just practiced until nobody could deny her abilities. When excluded from the roster, she still came to the range early every morning. When mocked, she still adjusted every scope, cleaned every lens, and when given opportunity, she answered with a shot that silenced the entire training ground. Never underestimate quiet people. They don't speak up, not because they're weak, but because they're preparing to do something nobody thought they could. The next time you see someone working quietly, preparing methodically, enduring mockery without response, pause. Ask yourself, what are they preparing for? Because the most dangerous assumption you can make is that silence equals inability. Sometimes silence equals focus, and focus can split bullets. Eliza's story reminds us that excellence doesn't announce itself. It just performs when the moment demands it. Her father's legacy lived on not through his medals, but through her quiet dedication to becoming extraordinary. Because legends aren't born from loud declarations, they're forged in silent hours of preparation that nobody sees.